One thing that I can say about Howie, for example, is just a funny little story. My neighbor here in Denver is actually from Syracuse, and he's an unaffiliated voter. In other words, he's a declined estate. He's an independent voter. I guess he always has been from the time that he was in Syracuse. And I happened to mention to him that Howie was going to be in town for events that we had here in Colorado, and he said, "Oh, I know who Howie is. He talks to everybody. Everybody knows what's on his mind." And I just thought that was just so amazing, and it made perfect sense, right? That people in Syracuse know who Howie is, because Howie's the kind of person that will, on a one-on-one basis, will actually talk to people and, hey, what's going on? Well, what do you think about this? And and he can tell you a little bit more about those conversations that he has. But Howie is kind of like a great example for the rest of us, because he's so into his community. He's so well known in his community because of those one-on-one conversations and the relationship building that he's been employing, just kind of like as a natural consequence. I mean, if you get to know Howie, he's curious about other people. Howie is very, very good about sitting back and letting you say everything that you need to say, right? And then he'll come in with, because he's also an encyclopedia, right? Then he'll come in with some information. Well, I always thought that da 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 da. And it's never, his approach is never, well, no, you're wrong about that, or that's not important, right? Which, if we're honest, I think sometimes as Greens we tend to do that because our solutions are so good, right? But Howie has this way of really de-escalating, about making people feel heard, about letting people speak their piece, that I think these are skills that we have to employ, right? So I started to say earlier that you can get a voter list, and the state party will be able to carve out one for your particular community. And once you've resolved conflicts, once you have goals about how many conversations that you want to have in a week, and kind of the things that you want to hear from people, you kind of put together a rough script that is more about listening than it is about prescribing. And you have enough hands on deck, then you can determine as a group, what is it that you really want to do? What is it that you want to hear? And a lot of times, if we're also being perfectly honest, most Greens have not heard from the party in a long time. So my recommendation to local organizations would be to start out calling all the Greens that are on the list that you can get from the state, or you can visit them. Maybe they're people that you've known from when the local started and you haven't seen them in a long time. Then if they know you, that's a great person for you to reach out to and just say, hey, what's going on? What's new with you? What kinds of things are you working on? And start by surveying your Greens who are, how should I say, they're familiar. The conversations should be easier. You already have a common bond with them, but it's very, very important to reconnect with those folks and just check in with them as much as you possibly can.